Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am with you on a Monday. I'm taping this Monday morning. Sorry if those of you who looked for me yesterday. Typically, my schedule has been Sunday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, but there are so many on the platform in this realm, in readings, who either do lives or posts on Sundays that I'm hearing more and more that it's a lot for everybody to kind of get to everybody that they like. So I think I'm shifting my schedule to Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Let's try that and see how it goes. All right. I'll keep you posted on that. Hope you had a good holiday weekend. I hope it was safe. You felt the love, ate some good food, maybe just chilled out, whatever you decided to do. I certainly enjoyed my family. One quick announcement that I want to make, and I'll do a video on this, but and I'll put a link in the description box and a comment probably. I am offering a class on December 28th on practical magic. I'm going to do a series on practical magic throughout 2026, at least the first half. But this is going to be practical magic using tarot, right? No matter what your level of whether you're an experienced reader or just interested in tarot, I'm going to take a different approach to it, you all. And this isn't going to be your standard how to read tarot, but it's more about using the power of those archetypes and those energies to impact your lives, like how to protect your home, how to build shields, how to really target your goals and manifestation, different how to even reset your nervous system and things like that. Things that we don't typically think about, the ways that the energy of these archetypes that work can impact our lives. So a lot of information about that. I'm going to put again. You can check it out on my website, and I hope to see you. It'll be on a Sunday, December 28th. 90 minutes, only $36, and I'd love to have you there. All right. So more about that later, but I just wanted to mention it. Okay. How about Sleepy Dawn? I guess we'll call him that again today. On Air Force One says, as usual, being extremely insulting, particularly to any female reporter. Like, okay, keep it pushing with that. But question about this MRI that is not going away. What was that MRI all about? And of course, he got defensive. But he told on himself, you all. That's the thing about him. He always, when he says left, you know it's right. So he, in response to being asked about whether he would, what is the deal with this MRI that was taken in October? Why aren't you being forthcoming about that? Will you agree to release the results of it? And he says, you know what? I was fine. I am fine. My brain is absolutely superb. My cognitive tests are absolutely superb. Ding, ding, ding. There it is. He told on himself, right? Because of all the areas of his body. And then to say, but I don't even know why they did it. I don't. Now, human logic behavior, you all. Who among us would ever have a prescription or a procedure like an MRI and not want to know what it is for? Not want to know what it is for. Here's my question. I think we all know the answer about at least the potential for dementia and whether we're actually seeing that in motion. But I do want to take a look and see, will the pressure continue to mount for him to release those results? And of course, if he does, will they even be the results, right? We have the Hermit. That's around health, very much around health. Um, and I think this is saying, because it's coming in a major arcana like the Hermit, very concerned with his health, but also the push for details, the push for understanding of what's really going on with him. And you know what, you all, that's not just the media. That Spirit is reminding me that is within his cabinet, that is within Congress, that is even within SCOTUS, you all. They are very, very nervous about what this is, all the blowback from this. But we'll take a closer look at them a little later. They've got some interesting decisions coming up. Spirit, the MRI results. The High Priestess trying to keep it secret, but secrets being revealed. Secrets being revealed. Spirit, are his physicians going to try and doctor the results in some way? Nine of Cups. They've been asked to. They've been told, do what you got to do. Similar to with his regular physical, right? Excellent health, amazing health, better than ever, better than anybody ever was, right? Nine of Cups. His doctors, they've been told, we want you. Here's what we'd like you to do. Spirit, will the actual results, the real and truthful results from that MRI come out? Will they be exposed? Perhaps leaked somehow? Queen of Wands. Not sure who that is. Will we see that? Will we learn what that MRI was really about? Page of Wands. All right, Spirit's doubling down on the fire. Fire having to do with momentum, action, again, the desire not to go away, because this is only going to increase. We know this. We see this happening. His decline is only going to increase. And at what point, what has to happen before it just completely crosses a line where it's like, okay, this can't continue. He's got to go. And the Two of Coins. I feel like that's a timing element. Spirit, are you showing me December, January? Are you showing me early next year? Because, of course, they always delay, postpone, delay, postpone, delay, postpone, try to redirect people's attention. Three of Pentacles, coming right behind the Two of Pentacles. 2 to 3 months or 2 to 3 weeks. As I'm almost getting not even that long. Will we get it sooner than later? Will we hear something in December? The truth of what that MRI was about. Nine of Wands. The pressure building, the momentum building, and somebody caving. This feels like somebody caving. Somebody with access to that information who begins to say, this man is a danger. This man is genuinely a danger. And the Empress. It's going to come out. I think it's, and also remember the Empress is a 3. We got that 2 to 3 time frame. I'm getting, is this December? Is this month, December? 4 of Cups, maybe not. And Death. Yikes. This is him. Spirit's showing me him. He's been making those comments about heaven and, can he get into heaven, or maybe he will, maybe blah, 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 blah. He's extremely afraid. What he learned and what this MRI was about is life or. All right. I'll leave it at that. I got it. Thank you, Spirit. Looking at the combination of these cards, you all, Spirit is saying the bottom line is, regardless of whether those results are being given to us by the medical profession, whether he comes through and says, okay, go ahead and release it, which we know. I mean, it's just like his taxes, right? Or his income, like his financial statements. That is not going to happen. But what I'm getting from this is the energy Spirit is giving in this reading is it won't matter, because the evidence of it, the actual decline, the actual progression of it cannot be stopped. And to the extent that he either does something, will he do something that is so across a line that action is taken by Congress? Ace of Swords. We can move on from this reading, you all. Ace of Swords. And you know how I am with the aces. Aces are yeses. At least that's how I read tarot, right? If I'm looking at a yes or no answer, aces are yeses. And swords. He will do something, and the progression of it is speeding up. Did you see how he looked on that plane over the weekend? And I know we say that every time we see him, right? It's just like, shoo. Somebody, I was reading an article and somebody said, it's like he ages, 10 years every week, right? Yeah, he's extremely worried about his prognosis. and doing his best. That's why he is slowing down his schedule. That is why he is participating less and less in major decisions. You got Rubio and Witkoff and Kushner in Miami now with the Ukraine side, whereas they met secretly without Rubio. I did that on a reading in Miami with a Russian envoy. He's not in the game. He's not in the game. They're giving him talking points to do when he's in front of a camera, but he's not in the game. He's not really participating. All right, so we're going to find out. But again, I feel like Spirit is saying we're going to find out because we'll see the effects of it versus the production of paperwork or news. All right. The boat strikes. Hegseth. Ha. Woo. Page of Wands. All right. Building momentum. I was just told to go ahead and pay attention to that. Building momentum and catching fire around that. So Congress is saying, you're not going to get away with this one. We are going to hold you to account. We want more detailed explanations about what the heck that was really about. You gave that order. Now we know. I read on Admiral, what's his name, Halsey or something. Forgive me if I'm saying that wrong. But this very, very powerful, experienced, and extremely qualified Admiral of the Navy who not even held his position over that command, not even a year, and then decided to retire suddenly as of this month in the wake of those the boat strikes. That was telling. And Spirit said that he knew that this was illegal, and so he was like, "I'm out. I'm not going to be a part of this." Now, I'm getting you all, the gods are saying, Sleepy Dawn is not going to fire Hegseth because he is one of the few people that he can rely on to essentially do whatever's necessary. Point blank, period. Now, Congress going after him, let's first look at that. Is he going to be brought to account in front of Congress, Spirit? Pete Hegseth, will he be brought to account in front of Congress? Is Congress literally going to go after him in the wake of these boat strikes? Knight of Swords, the paperwork being filed, the request for the information in motion. Knights are always in motion. The Fool, ooh, okay. Yeah. He's in for it. He's in for it with Congress. And he's in for it with Congress. Also, Spirit is saying with anyone who has had any kind of military affiliation in Congress. People like Senator Kelly, Mark Kelly, who we know is under fire for being one of the participants in that video about telling the military don't follow illegal orders. He's in totally new territory. And the Queen of Cups, there's someone in Congress, female, who's going to, I don't know who's on the committees that would hold him to account, but there is this female presence there. And the Five of Wands, a lot of fight and pushback by Sleepy Dawn. Because that's his boy. And he's going to try his darndest to protect him, to shield him. But I'm also getting you all, he promised him a pardon. If Hegseth is, if they continue to go after him and hold him to account, has he been promised ahead of time? He has. And it's interesting that it comes in as the Empress. Why is that coming as the Empress, Spirit? Two of Swords. There's someone hidden behind the scenes who has spoken to him. Is this, surely this isn't Bondi. Is this Bondi? This is Bondi. Ain't that nothing? Justice. Now she's already on thin ice herself. How's she gonna try and protect somebody? But that's the deal. Um, Pete Hegseth right now is still thumping his chest and believing that he can overcome whatever because he still thinks he's got the top dogs behind him. But what Spirit has also said is, remember, this administration is going to go one way or another. It's on a clock. The clock is ticking. Spirit, will we see Hegseth prosecuted and held accountable? We will. The son, he's done. He's toast. And he's believing right now that he's got this protection from Sleepy Don, Bondi, apparently the Department of Justice. He thinks he's surrounded. He thinks he's in this little bubble of protection. He thinks he can be pardoned, but he can't. Because what Spirit is saying is by the time all of this plays out far enough down the road for Sleepy Don to pardon him, Sleepy Don may not be in a cognizant position to do so. Am I right about that, Spirit? 4 cups, disappointment, and the Hermit. Yeah, his health, again, off the charts, continuing to decline. So by the time he would be in a position to do that, his capacity to issue such a pardon in full control of his faculties won't even be there. You got it? Wow. Wow. All right. The other part of that Spirit led me to look at today, you all, is boat strikes, Venezuela, ground, this potential for a ground incursion and actual war in Venezuela. We know it is not about the drugs. It is, Spirit's been very, very clear, as has, many in the political and social communities, economic communities globally have said this ain't about the drug. Where are the drugs? Whoever saw them? None of these boats that have been blown up, there was no evidence of it. There was no proof of it. So the drugs was a pretense and a pretext, but ultimately this is about oil. Right? This is about oil. This is about resources and control of resources. And that what I'm getting, Spirit is saying, and that Sleepy Don's thing is he's trying to do a one-up on China and Russia regarding oil. China, and which has invested heavily in Venezuela. Russia, which has sent, if I'm not mistaken, you all check me, and I know you will in those comments. But from what I understand, Russia has sent tankers to Venezuela to start loading up or offloading oil and sending it to China. Now, there are those who have said, why aren't, knowing the threat from Sleepy Don, this administration against Venezuela, why isn't Russia and China coming out more forcefully and saying, don't you do this? We looking at you. Don't you do this, Don? They are doing it. I'm getting that they are doing that. They're sending those signals. But bottom line, Spirit, the blowback, if he does this, if he starts this, tries to literally start this war because he wants to kick Maduro out, go in and take over their resources, right? Oil in particular, then will we see backup to Venezuela or perhaps to Maduro by specifically China? That's what I'm getting. I'm getting specifically China, Jinping. We have the Page of Coins at the bottom of the deck. Very early in the stages, like they have not committed. I'm not getting that China has actually committed resources. They haven't said to Maduro, if this happens, we got your back. At the same time, because it's coming Page of Coins, they want to protect their interests. Queen of Swords. This is who, I forget her name now, you all. I know I read on her before. This was that person in Venezuela, a female head in Venezuela, political person who is in place to, or could be in place to replace Maduro. Temperance. there's some waffling there. And also I'm getting intemperance, that's opposing sides trying to work something out. There's something here where they're trying to buy time. They haven't made an outward China. They haven't, in particular, and then Russia right behind it. They haven't made any outward statements, definitive statements, publicly to push back against the U.S. and this administration, this regime. They haven't done it publicly, but they are doing something privately. They're trying to work something out privately because they have interests in, again, they have interests in this oil, China specifically, and therefore Russia. They have interests in the resources of Venezuela as well. And so the idea that they would just sit back and surrender those interests ain't happening. There's the emperor. Exactly. Spirit is, let's go ahead and ask the full question. Will this regime declare war in Venezuela? Is that their objective, that they want to declare war? They do, the Empress. And now I'm getting, remember that the Empress can also represent growth and world, like the actual resources of the earth and the world. That's their plan. They want the resources. And so, yes, it is a plan for them to proceed because they've already mobilized all of these troops and tankers and ships in the region. They've been doing this step by step over the last several months, ever since they started these boat strikes. They are planning to do it. Two of Cups, because they want it, and they want Maduro. And there's the sun. They're planning to do this, you all. But the blowback from it, that is when I think this slowdown that we're seeing from China, the very idea that China's just going to say, okay, you can have it, is not going to happen. Spirit, will then things escalate with China? Oh, two cards just came, the Hermit and the Four of Wands, 100%. They're not going to give up on their interests in the region. And he's trying to, Sleepy Don is trying to play the role of, I'm in control here. And I can make the move. My juice is more than your juice, essentially. And that's not going to fly. You're going to see commitment from China, King of Pentacles. I feel like that's Jinping. You're going to see commitment at that point when that line is crossed by this administration. That's when you're going to see China get into the mix. This is not going to be some smooth, you go in there, great big U.S., you go in there with your forces, you oust Maduro, and then bada bing, bada bang, you take over. It ain't going to go that smoothly. It just ain't going to go that smoothly. All right, you all. Let's see. Last thing I wanted to look at today for you all. This is interesting, especially going into 2026 and then 2028. Spirit has said repeatedly, I've said it, many other readers have said it, it ain't going to be about JD Vance, right? Is not well liked enough, does not have, every single time he gets an opportunity. He spoke to the troops about Thanksgiving. You all saw that and said something to the effect of, you all really like the turkeys, and they clapped, and he said, oh, you're full of shite, right? Why? Like every single time this man puts his foot in his mouth and just sets himself further and further back. So he's really having some trouble. This, as we talked about earlier, Sleepy Dawn is continuing to decline, like seriously on a clock. It could happen any day now, right? He's not prepared and he's not ready. And he's certainly, even though at one point we were hearing that Sleepy Dawn was tapping some combination of JD Vance and Rubio to go ahead and succeed him, should he decide to step aside, right? In his thoughts, right? It's not going to happen. Now, to add on to that, the person who made JD Vance, Peter Thiel, right? The person who literally crafted him from clay, is on this Antichrist tour, right? I did a reading on that a couple of months ago. He's out here spreading this news around the Antichrist and who it is and how it is and how it's like going to that whole conservative national Christian base primarily. But we also know he's supposed to be a very, committed Catholic, as is J.D. Vance, who converted to Catholicism in large part due to the influence of Peter Thiel. Now we understand Peter Thiel is coming out with some words about Pope Leo, who undeniably is winning the hearts and minds of people around the world. Now, I did look it up. As many of you know, I used to be a reporter many years ago, but I just looked it up for kicks. And the estimates that I saw are at least around 62 million Catholics in the United States. United States, not even looking worldwide. 62 million Catholics in the United States. We know how much in the religious sect or sector, how many people, especially Hispanic and Latino, by and large Catholic, were swayed by this rhetoric, by the far right, by Sleepy Don, MAGA, da. They're like, okay, we may differ on some things. You're a Baptist, I'm a Catholic, but we still feel the same way we feel about things, about certain topics. He is messing up. Going against Pope Leo and trying to put Pope Leo in that light as Pope Leo is growing into his role, comfortably making the rounds. And there's the Ten of Cups, extremely loved. I'm not going to ignore justice right behind it. This is the energy around Pope Leo, you all. Ten of Cups. People love him. Families love him. People feel extremely, powerful around their faith. That's it, and that's that. So the idea that someone like a Thiel, who has this influence over Vance, is trying to Wheel of Fortune, karma, destiny, and that is, will this contribute to the downfall of J.D. Vance's prospects in the future? This whatever Thiel's got cooking up, and we know Palantir, all of it. We know how thick and deep Thiel is. Project 2025, all of it. He's in the thick of all of it. He's in that nucleus. And he sucked Vance into that nucleus. Vance can't get out. Is this going to be a contributing factor to his downfall? Ten of Swords. He already sees it coming. And how does he escape it? Ten of Swords. You know what? And what's interesting about that, Four of Coins, he feels bound to, J.D. Vance feels bound to Peter Thiel, but he also is like, why would you try to hurt me this way? I've done everything you told me to do. You made me, and I did what you told me to do. Why would you, now you know my next steps, what I want to do. Why would you do this to me? That's what J.D. Vance is thinking, and the Nine of Pentacles. But he's in too far with him. He relies on him, Thiel, and by and by extension, the people around Thiel. He relies on them, and that's also why King of Swords. That's also why he has. Every now and again, you've seen J.D. Vance make overtures to Elon Musk. He is scrambling in every way, and he knows he's done. He's done. Knight of Swords, people not taking his calls. Three of Wands. He's trying to build his own little, coalition over here, because everybody knows the clock is ticking on Sleepy Don. And the idea is, and the Knight of Cups, he's trying to find his friends, but he doesn't have any. Spirit, is he done? Is he absolutely done in terms of a future? Ace of Wands. There we go. Thank you, Spirit. I appreciate you always. Thank you, my guides. I appreciate you. Ace of Wands. He's done. And what's interesting is I think many of us thought he would be done by virtue of the fact that he is not liked, and he is incompetent, and he is, you know, he is what he is, right? We've seen it over and over again. Everything from they're eating the dogs to, yeah, sometimes I create lies just to create the headlines in the media, blah blah blah. I mean, he just, wow. But it's gone from that to the idea that the people will reject him, that Congress will reject him, that the congressional leaders don't like him. He is not liked, to a more karmic vision of what's in store for him in his future. And I wonder too, did we see who was that? I wonder too, Usha was in it for the power, period. So we don't need to feel sorry for her, whatever happened with Erica, who knows? Erica Kirk, who knows? But that's where the friction comes in there as well, because she went into this as hard as she did, trusting and believing that Vance would do whatever was necessary to position himself to ascend to the rank of president. And he's blown it. And the idea that he's blown it because of his affiliation with someone like Teal, like, how do you even get away from that? All right, you all. Thank you for being with me. I appreciate you so much. We know those chins stay up, the shoulders stay back, and our hearts stay kind and warm and compassionate toward one another, right? This is on a timeline, but that timeline is shifting, I tell you, right? I think we can all feel it. That timeline is starting to get real, real interesting, and things are spinning faster. Please, again, check out the information around the workshop I'm doing on the 28th. Implementing our magic. 2026 is going to be a 1 year, if you're into numerology, a 1 year having to do with new cycles, new approaches, new momentum. In tarot, the one is what? In the major arcana? The magician. All right? So we're going to get into some practical magic and ways not to just use this as a tool to necessarily predict or get insight around events, but to begin to use it as a tool to be proactive for the energies that you want to bring into your life. I've done it. I'm ready to share some things with you all, and I hope you can join me. All right, I'll probably see you back here on Wednesday. Take really, really good care of yourselves. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.